Attention to all founders, hustlers, and hardworking entrepreneurs. The Hustle's 2024 Entrepreneurship Trends Report is out now, and it's a goldmine of valuable strategies, data-driven insights, and expert tips for elevating your business. Have you ever wondered how successful business owners are staying ahead of the crowd in today's super competitive market? Well, we talked to over 500 small business owners to uncover how they're doing it and did a ton of research so you don't have to. We know you're busy building your business, so we got you covered. The Hustle's 2024 Entrepreneurship Trends Report is something you don't want to miss. This right here is the future of entrepreneurship. So stop what you're doing right now and check the link in the show notes to get that report right now. Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, September 26th. I'm John Weigell here with Juliet, Bennett, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. The latest AI scramble is shaking the art world in ways that we just didn't think it would, as the Evening Standard paper in London is trying to bring back the voice of a long-dead art critic to review a new Van Gogh exhibit. We've talked about resurrecting people through AI before, but can AI derived off of a deceased critic just hit the same? We'll get to that in a bit, but first let's give you the hits and headlines in business and tech. To start off today, grocery inflation has widely improved, thankfully. That's a positive, except for eggs. Prices on those fragile little eggs shot up 28.1% from last August. So you might ask, who's to blame? Bird flu, which has impacted 101 million birds in the U.S. since January of 2022, reads as the main cause. Next, the U.S. Justice Department filed a lawsuit against Visa, alleging that the company's monopoly on the debit card market harms consumers and competitors alike. Officials say Visa's inflated fees affect, quote, the price of nearly everything. Not great, considering that Visa handles above 60% of U.S. debit card transactions and collects $7 billion or more in processing fees each year. So maybe they're to blame for the eggs, too. From there, we go to a Bridgerton Ball in Detroit, Michigan, which has channeled February's disastrous Willy Wonka experience from this year. Attendees spent about $150 to $1,000 to reportedly just sit on the floor. There was the entertainment in the form of a single pole dancer. They had food, which some claimed wasn't cooked. And the scandal again casts a big suspicion on pop-up events that promise magical experiences and do not deliver that. So, Juliet, as a person very experienced in this field, what is your take on the latest event blunder?
Yeah, I just love the idea of someone getting really dressed up and doing their hair, and then you show up and the photos look like you're in a conference center or maybe an airport gate and just sitting on the carpet because there aren't enough chairs and there's nothing to do. Watching what appeared to be, yes, a single pole dancer on a pop-up pole, which, by the way, great core strength. It seems like she's very talented, but I struggle to connect what pole dancing has to do with Bridgerton, just based on my limited understanding. I did see a clip of what also appeared to be a single violinist, not even a chamber ensemble, just like one violin player. And then, of course, nothing to eat, nothing to do, photo sets that look like, it was very similar to Wonka. I saw a backdrop that was just like a piece of canvas.
Wow.
I love the idea. I love how funny it is. But I just think, we are seeing such an influx of these cash grabs where, these people are straight up scamming people out of $150, $200 and more dollars. And people are being very discretionary about their income right now.
Yeah, they are.
So if you drop $150 on what's your favorite show to have this big experience, maybe that's your birthday, or maybe that's, the one thing you're going to do in a quarter, and then it's this.
Yeah.
It's pretty egregious. And I think one thing that is worth noting and that I'm seeing a lot of when it comes to these weird sort of fly-by-night pop-ups is all of these are borrowing their ideas from existing properties, Bridgerton, Willy Wonka, whatever. But the company that actually has the IP is not involved in any way, shape, or form.
Right. And that seems to be a rule of thumb. Maybe just try to avoid events that are not with the actual IP of that company because, Netflix wasn't involved a bit in this. Warner Brothers wasn't involved in the Willy Wonka one. So,
Right. I think the key here is there's no skin in the game for these pop-ups. They want to steal someone else's idea and make a buck off of it. There are a lot of immersive theater companies that do spins on Shakespeare. I mean, famously, that is what Sleep No More is. It's Macbeth.
Oh, yeah.
But they're not just like blatantly being like, it's weirder things. like they come up with their own ideas and there's an artistic merit to them. These are just cash grabs. But when you look at an event that is actually put on by the company itself, like there is apparently some sort of Tower of Terror haunted mansion thing going on at the Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood, and Disney is putting it on. And I'm pretty sure Disney does not want to embarrass itself, so it will actually be good. And even when Disney fails, like with the Galactic Star Cruiser, yeah, maybe that didn't work out as intended, but it did look very cool. There was food. There were a million things to do, possibly too many things to do.
Right.
So I think when you are looking for tickets, you want to make sure that this company has put on other events in the past that have really good reviews, or is affiliated with people that have put on events in the past, or is at the very least actually affiliated with Netflix that has something to lose if it puts on a disastrous experience.
Oh, yeah. And this company, by the way, that put on this event is called Uncle and Me, LLC. And
just like two guys.
Just two dudes, an uncle and another guy. And they said that this went wrong because of their reasoning was, quote, organizational challenges, which is probably the most vague joining of two words that I've ever heard. So, yeah. From there, we go to Caroline Ellison, who received 2 years in prison for her role in the FTX scandal and must forfeit $11 billion. Her light sentence is thanks to her testimony against her ex, Sam Bankman-Fried. And let's finish up with NBA champion Jaylen Brown, who said no to a $50 million in offered shoe deals so he could launch his own sneaker brand called 741. Leaving that money on the table may sound risky to a lot of us, but Brown's got a $304 million playing contract to fall back on, so I'm not too concerned about his economic welfare. On to the main story. Okay, so in the AI frenzy of the day, as is every week, I feel like, we're talking about the ability for AI to both attach itself to the persona of a deceased person and also be able to critique art. So kind of a loaded and layered talk here today. So Juliet, can you tell us what on earth is going on here from the beginning?
Yes, I love the AI drama. So in this edition, there is a very famous art critic, Brian Sewell, who was very controversial, said a lot of very acerbic things, was always talking very famous. For 30 years, he worked at London's Evening Standard, and then he passed away in 2015. But apparently, that was not enough for the Evening Standard. They want more. They would like his labor even after death. So it came out in Deadline that they had somehow created some sort of AI bot. I'm going to guess they just used ChatGPT and were like, write this in the style of.
Probably.
But whatever they did, they announced plans to have an AI version of the late critic write an article about the National Gallery's new Vincent van Gogh exhibit. And people, of course, were immediately like, that's up.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of messed up. I mean, I don't really know who they would get permission from.
Right.
If anybody, his family, if that's even a law yet or anything like that, or if you could just use his name and likeness to write any article, which means that maybe the next article I write will be written by the same man, if I'm allowed.
Yeah. Well, apparently the interim CEO of the Evening Standard did say that his estate was, I believe he said, delighted. I want to know more. I want someone from the estate to tell me how and what ways they are delighted. Yeah, I guess it would be the estate. If you want to make a Lord of the Rings, you got to talk to the Tolkien estate. So I guess if you wanted to make an AI J.R.R. Tolkien, you would have to talk to the estate. Maybe it's that because the Evening Standard already has all of this content and it owns it, maybe it feels like it can train a model on that content.
Potentially.
But it leads to a lot of really interesting questions, as do all of these debates. I think our last AI debate was, if AI writes a novel for you, did you write a novel? And is it classist and ableist to tell someone that they can't write a novel using AI? That was the last conversation we had.
That's right. And this one is now, can you get a deceased person to write an article for your publication? And on top of that, are we now letting that deceased person / AI model critique art, which is kind of another interesting conversation in this whole thing.
Right.
Are bots able to accurately and well enough critique human art, or should they be able to, I guess is another frame of that, because most AI models are built on human art / human writings in this case. So it is a very fascinating, weird problem that just looks like a snake eating its own tail, kind of.
Right. And if you ever play the video game Detroit Become Human, which is about, these replicants or androids that achieve sentience, there's this whole thing about you, the robot, have to try to make a painting and see if you can like feel something when you make the painting. So I was thinking about that game a lot. But yeah, it's interesting because, I use GarageBand and other audio software to make music, and I can play something on a keyboard and then I can move each individual note so that it's perfect. It's on the downbeat. It's exactly. Yeah. And then I play it back and I'm like, this sounds so weird. There's something weird about it.
Yeah, it's robotic.
In a way that it's not weird when you actually like listen to an orchestra and you can hear people breathe because they're about to start a new measure on their woodwind instrument, or you can hear like the actual pressing of keys or like the strings. So, I mean, I think that's going to be our eternal question is like, yes, an AI could probably tell you what technical proficiency a piece of art was at, but would you feel something? Can a bot feel something? I mean, and that's only one part of this debate. I think the other part of the debate is, if we pull back a little bit, the Evening Standard, it's almost 200 years old, but it's not doing well. It is pulling back from a daily edition to a weekly edition, and it recently laid off about 150 human writers. Mm-hmm. And now it's pulling this AI stunt. And I think there are a lot of people who don't like the idea of a dead person being resurrected by technology. We've seen people have debates over whether it's okay to have hologram Michael Jackson or, Elvis Presley. Like, would you watch that? Is it okay to watch that? What would they think if they were alive? Would be like, that's pretty cool? Or they'd be like, please no. In the case of Brian Sewell, I read that he didn't even want a funeral. And he used to say things like Banksy should have been put down at birth. So I don't really know how he would feel about AI. I mean, passing away in 2015, we weren't at this point yet.
Yeah.
So that's one argument. The other argument is, of course, what is AI doing to erode journalism? And when you see a dead writer being recreated by AI at the same time as 150 human writers are being let go, and quality perhaps, and certainly quantity are being cut, that sucks potentially. And it's not something we're not used to. I think if you work in journalism like I do, or if you are just someone who reads the news on a regular basis, you have watched technology erode the quality and content of journalism over time. I think we all remember you used to be able to read an article and it wasn't called 27 Things You Didn't Know About Salt. And also it wasn't a video on TikTok that you had to like and subscribe. I mean, I think we all remember when Facebook told everybody pivot to video and what happened there. So I think we just, at this point, have a great mistrust of technology's place in journalism. And then when you see something like this, it feels very egregious.
Agree. It also sets a bit of a dangerous precedent that if this one publication can reanimate one of its most iconic writers of all time and have them write reviews instead of new writers, then, what's stopping legacy publications like, New York Times, LA Times, New Yorker from resurrecting some famous writer that has now passed to come back and write for them now. So it's kind of interesting and a little dangerous going forward to see how this will impact the journalism community and how media companies will love to lay off a little more and staff those writers instead with AI. So,
yeah, I can't wait to see them try to do it with famous Los Angeles Times food critic Jonathan Gold with a robot that can't eat food, evaluating the latest, greatest.
That'll be fun to watch at least.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is this is only a one-off article. I think maybe it's sort of like a big publicity stunt. Maybe they will not continue to be doing this, but I'm sure this is not the last time we will get to discuss AI drama on this podcast.
All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor today is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go get signed up at thehustle.co/email. Throw us a follow on Instagram. Keep it zesty, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow. Hey, everybody. I've been listening to this awesome podcast lately called Nudge. It's hosted by Phil Agnew, and it's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. Have you ever noticed how the smallest changes can have the biggest impact? On Nudge, you learn simple evidence-backed tips to help you kick bad habits, get a raise, and grow a business. Every bite-sized 20-minute show comes packed with practical advice from admired entrepreneurs and behavioral scientists. Nudge is fast-paced but still insightful with real-world examples that you can actually apply, and it's the UK's fastest-growing business podcast. I was listening to an episode recently where Phil had on Nick Kalenda, who is a former mind reader, and psychic who now works with big companies in their sales departments on selling more products. It's absolutely mind-boggling, and you got to check this out. If you want an MBA's worth of insight in one single podcast, this show is right for you. Every 20-minute podcast gives you something extra special. And you can listen to Nudge wherever you get your podcasts. Super quick question here. How many tabs do you have open right now? If you're like me, it's a lot. And if you're running a business, it's a lot more. And with all those tabs, you're spending more time searching through data and less time, growing your business. But HubSpot's customer platform brings all your tools into a single powerful place that your teams can use together. So close those tabs. It's business growing time. Visit HubSpot.com to get started today.